All right, guys, I got a pop filter so you guys can stop yelling at me for the P's that keep popping, popping, popping. Also, my wife's watching Handmaid's Tale. If you hear some strong feminist yells, it's going to be her enraged. So anyways, in today's video, guys, I want to chat with you about the cost of buying a home, but not necessarily just the cost of buying a home. So, because by now you should know. If you don't, I'll give you an idea in this video. But I want to talk about the actual costs that are being incurred buying during this market, because in this housing market, we're actually seeing home buyers spend a different kind of costs that weren't expected. What's interesting is when I run into a situation with a client who maybe has been in a coma for the last 5 to 6 years, or maybe their only source of real estate education is like their cousin that bought like 7 years ago. And when you start educating them on like, okay, so most buyers are spending this, spending that, they think you're trying to scam them. Cue all the YouTube commenters with no picture on their profile saying, well, buying a house right now is a scam in this market. Now, in case you guys think I'm scamming you, I'm actually going to show you some real live closed listings that have happened in the last 10 to 15 days to show you what actually people are spending or overspending for these listings. Let's start off with, in essence, what are going to be the costs of buying a home regardless of whatever housing market you're going to be. We're always going to start off with the first and major one, which is probably something that you've thought about, the down payment amount. There's a common misconception among many home buyers, especially those that are educated by their cousin Edgar, who bought a house 8 years ago, that the only down payment percentage you need is 20% down. And so because of this, a lot of people are like, oh gosh, I'll never be able to buy a home. Here's the easiest way to break it down. If you're under 700, you're going FHA. FHA is 3.5% down. If you're over 700, you should go conventional, which can be as little as 3%, 5%, 10%, or 20%. So in this case, for this example, let's use a $350,000 house. 3% would be this, 3.5% would be this. Look, you guys like my graphics? Watch this out. Here I am as a kid, and look at the glow up to me as an adult. Amazing, right? Also, what's up with these flower shirts, man? Looking like a millennial up in here, dude. Hell yeah, bro. So that's your down payment. The closing cost is your next one. Now here, I always say in previous videos, 2 to 3% is a general number. If you have high taxes in your state, you should account for 3%. If you don't, maybe 2% is enough. If you're like, hey, well, maybe I can get the seller to pay the close. No. Yes, it's possible, but it's not likely. You're probably going to pay your closing cost. I don't care if your cousin Edgar got closing costs 4 years ago. I don't want to argue. That's just the way it is right now. If you're hoping for something to change, well, maybe it'll change. But right now, most times home buyers are paying their closing costs. And you'll see when I show you the closed listings, when there is closing costs, usually it's like a small amount, because usually what happens is when they negotiate inspections, instead of the seller repairing items, they go, hey, we'll give you, 1,000 bones in lieu of the repairs. After that, we got your home inspection, $300 to $500. Add another $100 there for any additional inspections you want to add. Like if your state has termites or has some kind of pests, you want to definitely add it for that. Appraisal is going to be about 600 smackaroos. Your lender might pay for it, might not pay for it, but just account for it. So these are your standard costs. Usually there's anything extra that pops up. Some people go, well, Javier, you forgot the earnest deposit. Listen, when you buy a house, there's going to be an initial deposit you have to make when the offer is accepted, but this money gets applied towards your cash to close. What's your cash to close? What's essentially the money you need to close on the house. So using this example, you get an idea of what it costs to buy a house. Now, a lot of times people go, well, is that all you need? Big brain Javier decides, well, not really. You have to budget. You have to make sure to save for more. I made a few good videos talking about that. In this video, I talk about how to find out the right budget for your house, meaning not necessarily what you qualify for, but how to find what's the right budget for your monthly payment. And I've also made other videos like this one where I talk about some extra tips on what you need to save other than these amounts. So feel free to add them to your library and give them a watch when you can. But now in this market, how much does it cost to buy a house? A whole lot. The other day, somebody messaged me and they said, is it true that house is really selling for $40,000 more? And I said, no, it's a huge conspiracy. The reality is they're not, but the government wants you to pay more, and they're putting the extra money into Dogecoin, and Dogecoin is going to be the catalyst for the boom, the big housing market crash. Yes, unfortunately, most markets are unfortunately dealing with this. Why it's happening? We have a big distribution of wealth happening right now in this country, where there's a lot of states that had a lot of people with well-paying jobs. They're now being spread around the country. The difference between 2008 and now is 2008, 2007, that market crash had a lot of Mickey Mouse money, a lot of monopoly money. You would get ninja loans, right? No income, no assets, no jobs. You just tell the bank you're getting a loan and you would get a loan. And a lot of times you would qualify for a house that you couldn't afford. They were just giving you a nice low teaser rate, but it was an adjustable rate mortgage. So once the mortgage started adjusting, and the interest rate started getting higher and higher, then you couldn't afford that house anymore. So there was a lot of monopoly money in the market, right? It wasn't real money. The difference between now is that the people that are buying these houses are legit people. They have a lot of money because they just sold their house and who knows where they're coming from, or they just been saving like crazy and they're buying here. So these people that are coming and buying these houses have legit money. So to them, the value of that house where they're coming from is worth a lot more than what it's listed for. So much more that they're willing to pay cash $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000 more. And it will continue to happen until the point where they say, you know what? I don't think the house is worth another $30,000 more. We're just going to offer list price. And the whole collective buyer group decides to agree with this point. When does that happen? I don't know. I don't have a magical date for you. I believe some cities will just stay more expensive to live in. I believe some other towns that maybe were benefiting from the inflation of these homes that didn't have real people with higher paying jobs moving there are going to be affected. But, you know, a lot of these doom and gloom people saying the crash is going to happen and everything are not looking at the kind of buyers that are buying these houses, you know, or they're just trying to get you to click the title. And listen, I know about a thing or two about sensational titles. Let's, for the sake of brevity, is that the right term? I don't know, but we're going to go for it. Let's look up the MLS. And what we're going to do is let's do a basic search right now in Phoenix. So right now in Phoenix, let's say you're trying to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, 1,500 square feet plus, let's say 1 story, and let's say between 300,000 to 400,000. Goodyear, Waddell, Surprise, Litchfield Park, a little bit of Avondale, Tolleson. Just pick that area out. So right now there's currently 29 houses for sale. Look at what's under contract. There's actually 214. And if you look at the closed sales over the past 30 days, 180. So check this out. Let's look at the last 15 days of closings. Now remember, I put the max price up to $400,000. This house got listed at $395, sold for $450 cash. Did this person overpay for this house? Well, Cletus Jones from the comment section with no profile picture will tell you they overpaid for that house. That house is not worth that much. True value of a property is what someone's willing to pay. And that's cash. That's not a finance. That's not going to foreclose. That's not going to do a short sale. That's a cash deal. Now that the household cash $450, all the other houses in that area are going to be matching that price or be near it. So the thing is that the value of that property to that buyer was not worth $395. They had cash. To them, it was worth $450. What's happening is these values will continue to rise until we get to the point where even that cash buyer is not willing to pay that much. Here's another one. Let's see if we can find another cash deal. $385, sold for $425, another cash deal. Nice. Thank you. Just trying to find a finance deal. Listed $399, so for $420 cash. Okay, guys, I just want a listed $399, so for $420 cash. Okay, we finally won. Okay, listed $400,000, sold for $415 conventional. No closing costs paid. So for this situation, for this house, yeah. So let's just imagine they put 3 or 5% down for the sake of this video. Well, in this case, this person had to spend an additional $15,000 because it was listed at $400,000. If we were to assume the house appraised for $400,000 and they waived their appraisal, that means this buyer could have potentially paid an additional $15,000. So this is why you need to have a little more money saved if you're looking for a nice house. So if you're looking for a nice house that's remodeled and all that fancy stuff, you're going to have to be in a situation like this, unfortunately. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just giving you the facts. So if we put the down payment and the closing cost numbers back up again with all the inspections and all that stuff, if we add another $15,000, that was the true cost of buying this property. That's if you're willing to waive your appraisal. Now it takes a lot more risk. So your risk tolerance needs to be definitely a lot higher. But if you're competing with the nicer houses in the market, that's what you have to bring to the table. Now, let's see if we can find something that is a little more relatable. There we got another one listed at $399, sold for $415 conventional. They gave $750 of concessions, but you know, that happens all the times. It's probably just an inspection cost or something. Here we have another similar situation, listed at $379, sold for $405, and no closing cost. Let's see if we can find a house that maybe isn't in the best condition so we can see how it looks like. So it looks like already, from what I'm judging in this specific part of town, $20,000 to $30,000 seems to be that average price range we need to put higher. I found a normal situation, listed $349, Sold for $365, so it's approximately about $15,000 over the list price. Wow, this is so cool looking at Javier looking at all these photos of these houses, right? Isn't it fun? Well, listen, not every market's the same. I'm showing you Phoenix, Arizona, so I know it can get a little sad. You really want an agent to break this down for you in your local area. So here's what you do. Go to homeandmoney.com/Javier. If you're looking to buy a house in the next few months, request an agent referral. Their referral team is going to hand select an agent just for your needs. They start guiding you just like I've been guiding you. And, you know, maybe a few months from now, you might find yourself being a homeowner. Who knows? Life is crazy like that. So yeah, homeandmoney.com/Javier. Get yourself an agent today. This property was listed at $340. It sold for $360, and they put about $10,000 down, which is approximately about 3% around there, right? So in this situation with this property, if they had to put 5% down plus closing costs, plus inspection and appraisal, and of course that $20,000 deficit, this is about how much they needed. So in case that's confusing, let me explain to you how it works. So if you offer anything over, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to come up with the cash. So for example, let's say there's a house for $400,000, you make a $420,000 offer and waive your appraisal. It doesn't guarantee you're gonna come up with $20,000. What happens is you're rolling the dice. It could come in at $420, you don't have to come up with any money. Or it could come in at $410 or $415 and $410 or whatever. I already said 410, but you know, you have to make up the difference. So it doesn't have to be a $20,000, you know, thing. It could be less, but at the same time, it could be more than 20. Because imagine if it appraises at 390 or 380, now you're coming up with a lot more. So this is why I like putting cap on things. So let's say the same example, you say, well, we'll waive our appraisal, but if it goes under 400,000, we'll renegotiate. But in my mind, you should, in your brain, tell yourself you're going to make up that money. So if it ends up being less, then it's a pleasant surprise. A lot of times though, you don't have to necessarily just waive your appraisal entirely. This amount of $20,000 could be cut into a smaller piece. Maybe you can agree to a partial appraisal waiver. You say, hey, we'll give you an extra $5,000 if it doesn't appraise, instead of guaranteeing the amount. So this can be cut maybe in a quarter and a half, but it looks like right now you're going to have the ability to potentially put additional $10,000 or $20,000 on the table. The cost of buying a house right now, a house right now has been increased by, on average, $10,000 to $30,000. Now, sometimes people get away with not having to make up the difference, and they just say they're going to pay more, and the appraisal comes in at that value, but that's not guaranteed. They're willing to lose it. So it seems the nicer the house is, and hopefully if a cash buyer doesn't beat you, you have to put closer to that $30,000 to $50,000 number. But in this case, if it's $30,000, you know, we're looking at $300,000 to $400,000. We can assume a good number is about 10% more. So if you have an additional 5 or 10% of the purchase price, it looks like you might have a more favorable chance of getting a house. Chandler and Gilbert, that are a lot more popular right now to the out-of-state folks. I mean, once again, I'm capped at $300,000 to $400,000. There's some properties going up to $450,000. Conventional, $50,000 over the price. Sold for $450,000, listed at $398,000. Here's one in Gilbert, $399,000 for $440,000. So it's still about $40,000 to $50,000. Yeah, I'm comfortable saying that 5 to 10% number. So you're gonna need an additional 5 to 10% for sure to play around with, unless you get super lucky. So yes, unfortunately, this is the reality of the situation. I know it's tough, but my hope is it starts slowing down soon. So it's not impossible to buy a house. You could have a ton of cash in the bank. I'm just kidding. In reality, if you want a nicer house, you just have to have an additional 5 to 10% down. So if you're looking to buy a house, just start saving. Save. Also, stop asking me for post-credit scenes. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Some kind of storyline happening at the end of my videos. Seriously, guys, I think you guys have been smoking a little too much, you know what, right? So please stop asking for that. It's not funny. It's just me enjoying, just enjoy the content, okay? So there's no hidden secrets here. Just please stop. I know what you guys are talking about. Gosh.